Hi, I'm Caroline Miller, your host for Just Read It. This is a Portland book talk show that emanates out of Portland, Oregon, and it's a place where writers of the Pacific Northwest uh, give us their opinions on New York Times bestsellers. And today we will be discussing Vera or Faith by Gary Shteyngart. Okay, I've got that done. And I want to welcome two guests, good friends of mine, actually ladies of the theater, who have now begun to write their own damn plays. So I want to welcome the both in, and they both happen to be Janes. So one is Jane Mantiri. Well, welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
Great. And Jane Fellows, who I want to welcome you, was the star of my play, Woman on the Scarlet Beast. So I feel very comfortable with these two gals, but I will be referring to them by their last names too,
Okay.
so that I think you know why, Jane. Okay, gals, welcome. Let's hear a little bit about you. I'll start with you, Jane Fellows.
All right.
You are such a queen of the Portland theater scene, or maybe the Oregon scene, and
Mercy.
you have decided to write a play. What is that going to be about? And do you have a title for it yet?
The title of the play is The Measure of Lou Henry Hoover. This is an intimate look at the First Lady of the United States, wife of Herbert Hoover, and her incredible work that she did for women, for children, for girls. And the play is about her struggle when she is in her right toward the end of her life. Well, she doesn't know that, but Stanford has asked her to speak at graduation and for the 50th anniversary of Stanford. And she is struggling at this point in her life. Why me? How am I relevant? And the play is the struggle for her to write that speech for the graduates. She graduated from Harvard in 1898 in geology.
Interesting. And the title of it, a tentative title even?
The Measure of Lou Henry Hoover.
The Measure. Okay, all right. That sounds very interesting. Well, I will tell my audience you want to put that on your calendar if you can see it, because I've seen Jane Fellow's other one-woman dramatizations, and they are just riveting. So, welcome aboard, Jane Fellows, and now Jane Mantiri. Jane is started a program for women in theater, trying to promote uh, more opportunities for women, and that organization has just took off like a bee in a poppy field. So that's successful, and now she has picked up the pen and written her own one-act play about her own life. So I will welcome Jane Mantiri and come in and tell us a little bit about the play, which I have seen and is really, really good. So come on in, Jane. Say hi to the audience.
Hello, thank you. I did write my first and I say my last play. Um, See Jane Run, an Indo story. It is the story of my life as a refugee immigrant coming to the United States, determined to become Jane the American in honor of my parents and erasing my Indo past. And so the purpose of this play is to reclaim that past and share the secrets with the world. And I will be performing it again August 3rd and 4th at Lakewood Theater of the Center for the Arts in Lake Oswego.
Well, Jane has been all over the country, actually, and won an award from your alma mater, did you not, Jane, for your, tell us a little bit about that, where
I
you're
I did
going.
I did perform the play at my alma mater, Carroll University, just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Waukesha, and I was awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award. And we have taken the play to LA and Scottsdale, Eugene, different parts of the country. And it's been a joy to be able to do this.
And possibly headed for Holland, if I'm correct, where there's a large
Hopefully
Indo
this,
population.
hopefully this summer we'll be going to the Netherlands.
Yes, and I will add that she's having a documentary which will come out maybe in a year or two. I know it takes a long time to get these up and running, but I think the film is all done. So you've got here, audience, today two powerful, productive women who have opened up a new path in their career from being on center stage to commanding every facet of playwriting. So I'm thrilled to have you both with me here today. Now, as to the book we're discussing, I chose this one a little bit because of you, Jane Mantira, because it has a kind of, well, the center character is a 10-year-old girl with a Russian father and a Korean mother who she thinks has abandoned her, and she's now living with a stepmother who is a white, waspish Mayflower descendant. And the father is kind of distant, and this little gal with the Korean background and heritage at 10 years old is doing what I think we do the rest of our lives, is trying to figure out how she fits in. So, and does this stepmother love her? She has a little brother who is a, a patrician where she is not, and that is really another factor because he is also the genetic child of her stepmother. And so all this little gal wants to do is go to school and have a friend. And I thought this was a topic that might be near to your heart, Jane Mantiri, but I think it's pretty common for all of us. So um, I've given a little background. The book is slightly ahead of our time. It's slightly futuristic. The country is falling apart. Um, yeah, not that, but not that fictional, futuristic in that there are some gadgets there and things. But so we've got this strange, not quite modern, ahead of its time a society that is falling apart, a young 10-year-old who is trying to figure out if her dad loves her, does her stepmother acknowledge her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I came across a comment from someone, well, actually, when I try to read the reviews, and how many people thought the book was funny. I guess I'm turning 90. I think I've lost my funny bone. But I wonder what you thought, Jane Mantiri, about um, did the book strike you as humorous, or what were your initial reactions to the book? Jane?
Yes, yes, long pause. Um, I usually do not read reviews of a book before I read it because I want to draw my own conclusions. I made the mistake of reading the inside jacket,
Mm.
in which the New York Times described the writer as this generation's most original and um, creative writer. And so I start reading the book with high expectations. And in reading the book, my first pass through the book, I did see strong evidence of Gary's brilliance as a writer. However, the book, um, I I did not. I also saw strong evidence of his tremendous wit, his sarcastic wit, um, and uh, and I think that his writing is very worthy. That said, I did not find the book funny. Um, it had humorous moments in it. There was some deep poignancy to it, and at times I felt that the sarcastic humor was a bit overdone. Um, I also, just as a maybe a minor thing, I felt that his use of quotation marks, it almost felt like a writer's tick, that I think less, because he has such talent in writing, I think less would have been more. And
It's a pretty small book. It's not, I think
it's a
he
very,
said in one interview, he said, uh, it, I had to write a small book. A 10-year-old doesn't have much life. So it's not a big book to read.
it's not. And in fact, then after I read it twice, I did go and listen to about 6 hours of interviews that he has
Oh,
done. And my before I saw those interviews, I thought, this is a writer who, for all his brilliance, I don't think he really knows children. Um, and I am a retired child psychologist. And so I felt like he didn't know children. And and then later in the interviews, I heard him say multiple times on his book tours that he has never been interested in children until he had his own child later in life, that he um, uh, wasn't really curious about children, and that he did not research
mhm, mhm.
the innards of a 10-year-old girl.
Okay.
He did research sibling
Uh,
relationships,
I
but
want to pick up on that, but first I want to get Jane Fellow's overview as you've given. What's your intake on what was your impression, Jane Fellows?
Well, I actually enjoyed it very much because I find him an active storyteller in that I felt immersed in their world. Um, and I think it's not to be a documentary. It is, he's exploring something, and his point of view is a child. And I was quite taken with a lot of his devices, with the quotation marks and the fact of because I think about things I don't understand, and I wish I'd kept that book and looked at things later. And I thought it was active. I don't know, maybe writers now are all writing screenplays, but there was action, and I felt that when she went to her friend's house, I was there with her, and I think that's a device of simplicity in the writing that I appreciated, and
Did it
that
did it make you
struggle.
laugh? Did you laugh? Was it funny at any point for you or?
Well, I'm not going to say it was funny. I appreciated the humanness.
Mhm.
I guess that's what it was, and of times of seeing myself when I was 10 years old, or 16 or 20 or whatever, and I liked the secrets. I felt that was a wonderful use in the writing style of things. Because when you say it's futuristic, we don't know that. at the beginning. And it's, some very clever devices, of talking cars. Well, everybody got an electric car that talks to you. And so it's like, but it was the game that talked to her. And so the sense of imagination of a child, and perhaps a game talks, but when the game starts to set up some rules for, the direction of her path, then you're going, okay, now we're into a different world. I thought it was charming. I like to be kept on my toes when I'm writing, when I'm reading a book. I'm fine with it, and we'll go along with it. But I felt what I appreciated was it was active.
Okay.
That the scenes were acting. Of course, I see it in terms of, okay, if this was a play, I would, I love this character.
Okay. Well, to clarify, the game is a chess game.
Yes.
For those who haven't read it. But yeah, I had the feeling that so many things. I'm not quite sure how the dystopian issue worked in the book, but you bought into the child as a child, apparently. I mean, you didn't have any doubt.
Well, I had no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
I just read it, Caroline. I read it, and I'm not going to say I studied it. I read it.
It carried you.
And it did. It was, I felt immersed in the story.
Mm-hmm. Did you, see, I don't want to give away with too much of what I think at this point, but the dystopian world that we discover they're sort of in was also the dystopian world of the child. She's trying to hold a family together. She's not sure where she fits, and she wants a friend, and of course, don't we all?
Well, she wants to belong.
Yeah, she wants to belong. So those are normal aspirations, and we think we outgrow them, but I'm going to confess that at 90, I haven't, Oh, I don't know. But okay, now, so I want to take that back to you, Jane Mantiri, about this child's world. Did you buy into it, and did you buy into it particularly because of her cultural differences? Did it resonate with you? Did you find experiences that you could say, yeah, that's true, or no, that's not ringing true?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes and yes. There were ample parts of that book where I could relate to it and I could enjoy it, and there were times when I felt really taken out of it. And I think that there are a lot of people, and including a lot of professional writers, who have the same response and reaction as Jane Fellows. And so, her points are very, very valid. And I do think I don't consider myself a writer. I don't identify as a writer per se, even though I have written.
A good play.
There are other hats that I have worn in my life where I feel that I have far more expertise in. But I do know some simple guides, such as Write What You Know, especially for fiction writing, allowing for creativity. But I felt that what carried the book was his tremendous skill in writing. And the book is written and it deserves to be read. And I applaud much of the book. I think that as a child advocate, as a strong child advocate, I would invite if I could have coffee with Gary, I would invite him to change some of the ways that he sells his books on tour, saying things such as, I had to make it short. I Googled 50,000 words. I wrote 50,044 words because how much time can you spend in the life of a 10-year-old girl? And to me, and then he said, I had to make her smart like me because how much can you listen to a dumb child? And those are the kinds of things that, again, they're sarcastic wit, but with somebody who has his megaphone as a professor at Columbia University, as a national and probably internationally known writer, I would like him to portray children at least as he presents it and talks about his book with the respect that deep down inside he has, because when I researched his biography and his autobiographical work, this is a man with tremendous depth, tremendous vulnerability, tremendous heart. And sometimes he defends against it with his gift of humor and sarcasm. And in the end, I do think that he chose Vera. Well, he says he chose Vera as a character because as a girl, as opposed to a boy, he felt that she would have more range of emotion. And that is what that's what he tried to capture. And so I would like him to speak about it differently. I also know that one of the things that I felt the first time I read through it um, was that there was a real frenetic uh, element to it. You know, Vera wants to get through her childhood. There's so much pain there. She wants to get through it and get to get to that friendship, get to finding her birth mother. And for the author, he also was going through his own process, and he said being in Vera's mind actually made him very ill and crazy. So he had to stop it. And
You did your homework. I want to pick up. I'd like to hear a couple of things from both you, but I'll pick up with you, Jane, while you're here. As someone yourself who has written a play about fitting into a culture, did you at any point identify, was there any situation that in the book that you felt did ring authentically to being 10 and trying to fit into the world and yet not looking like everybody else and not coming from the same traditions? Was there any point where that touched
oh,
you?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I got tearful at times when I would read about Vera hiding in the stall in the girls' room,
Mhm.
wanting so badly to be part of that group at recess, and yet always feeling like you didn't quite belong. And uh, I could relate to that, and I felt that the way he wrote about that, I mean, it broke my heart, as he says, it breaks my heart into a million pieces.
All right, so he was authentic in that degree.
In many ways, he was authentic.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
let me ask you, Jane Fellows, I want to pick up this thing about her being 10 years old and what Jane Mantiri said about she wants to get through her childhood because, she thinks being an adult may solve her problems. But um, I wanted to pick up on your take. She keeps a book
Yeah.
in which she writes down all the words she doesn't understand. Um, that's very childlike, don't you think? And what did you make of it? I'll tell you, uh, of course, I'm a philosopher in training, so my feeling was um, the irony of the humor of thinking that understanding a word alone given the duplicity of sentences, would give you knowledge. I just thought that was childlike and endearing and innocent and so foolish. But did you
Yeah.
make anything of
Well,
that?
and I think you use a wonderful word. It was childlike, and because I think at no point is Vera childish, and
Mhm.
I think that that there is, it is so human to wonder about things and to not know things, and the fact that she admits it and
Mhm.
and carefully catalogs it, but then at will uses those words that she thinks she's using them the right way. I thought it was a, a charming device, and I think that if I look at, because I will say a point blank that I looked at the book, I did not look at the writer, and that it's probably the thing I have about, critics of theater, review the performance, not the play. It's it, I think he does many, many things from
Mhm.
the point of view of Vera. And I think that for a writer to do that and to stay authentic to where she is, she never gives up on what she doesn't know and
No,
wanting to know more.
quite
And
a
I
bit of
think,
courage. Quite a bit
yeah.
of courage.
And getting back to, the things that surprised her, and of being surprised by her father's letting her down, and of how she dealt with it. I never
Mhm.
felt at all that she was not dealing with her world as a
Mhm.
10-year-old.
Mhm. No, she had quite a bit. But I just, as a writer, I just that this faith in words when we know they do not tell the truth. They spend
Yeah.
most of the time hiding the truth. I think the media shows us that every day. That he gave her a kind of innocence, which he, as a writer, knew was totally untrue. I thought that was kind of a touching where he would come in and play with things, I thought from an adult point of view, and put her in situations where almost futuristically he could see that her life was going to change because her words were going to change and her understanding of those words were going to change.
Yeah, and it was fun for me that it wasn't always just words. Sometimes it was an idiom or a phrase. And I
Mhm.
thought that was a wonderful way of not just making it a vocabulary lesson,
Mhm.
but of truly of the and what words do to communicate
Mhm.
a whole sense of a human being.
Well, I wanted to ask the both of you. I'm still struggling with why the science fiction of it, why the futuristic. What did that add to the book? Except it, I find life so futuristic. We're clinging to the small planet, but what did you make? Did you see a point in bringing in these brave new world like kind of concepts? Did that add to the book for you at all? I'm confused about why it's there and how it functions. Jane Fellows.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, no, it's fine. Well, I must say, Caroline, I did not let it bother me.
Mhm.
And I found it, oh, okay, we have a car that talks. Okay, and then I found the Caspi, is that right? Caspi, the chess, the
Mhm.
game,
Talking chessboard.
it was almost a way for her to have a dialogue that
Mhm.
became very, very interesting. I think
That's
the thing
interesting.
that just was where I kind of gasped was at the end when the helicopter comes in. But then I said, okay, I'm in theater. That's Greek drama. That's the deus ex machina that comes in to solve the
That's
problem.
jazz, right?
And I
Okay.
was just, oh my
So it
gosh,
didn't bother. You just
um,
went along.
I just said, okay. And I think a lot of it is, uh, I wasn't searching to make a judgment of it. I just said, okay, this is,
Okay, this is it.
I mean, he wanted to take us, I guess, and put it in a little future. I don't know why. And for me, it did not change the humanity of the story.
Okay, we'll
So
get into that in a minute, but that's a good point. Well, it's spoken like a trooper actress that you are. You know, if the director says, read the line with your finger in your ear, that's
Yeah,
what a good
you do it.
actress
Yeah.
does. Absolutely. All right, Jane Mantira, how did the science fiction part deal? How did you respond to it?
The science fiction part was fine. There were times that, um, I was eager to get back into some of the other things that would have been of more interest to me, but it was really fine. It didn't, I wasn't as swayed by that um, as much as by other things. So no, the
Well,
science
all
fiction
right.
part didn't
The
I, I
philosopher
didn't
wants
have a
all
strong reaction to the science
the
fiction.
philosopher wants all pieces to fit. So I suppose I just thought the utopian mind of a child and the utopian world that she's entering, that was the best kind of thing I could think of. But mentioning the humanity that Jane Fellows opened up, Jane Mantiri, um, how did you feel about, now we don't want to give away anything, but
Right.
it
No
was just
problem.
hard not to do since the helicopter is already there. But how did you feel about the ending of the book, Jane Mantiri? Did it work for you?
Well, again, I don't want to give away any punchlines. I felt that the last third of the book I felt had a lot of hairpin turns, and some of them were very compelling,
Mhm.
and some of them I felt were I felt I was taken on a shortcut.
Mhm.
Um, and again, you know, um, I feel that it is true that different readers are going to pick up different things. I think
Mhm.
that if there had been a writer who had decided to write about theater from the point of view of a director and then also said, but I've never had an interest in theater, and then proceeded to write a novel about it, uh, people who have tremendous acumen in the theater would would maybe be jarred at times. And so
Mhm.
I think as a child advocate and a child psychologist, there were times with the protagonist being a 10-year-old girl and him throwing things out that didn't quite fit with where a child developmentally would be. Um, it just was a bit jarring at
So
times.
that is it. Once you put a book into the fish pond, anybody can nibble on it, and that's right. So let me get back to you to Jane Fellows because I liked what Jane Mantiri. I must never do this again to get two guests with the same first name, but Jane Fellows, I liked because for me, I think Jane Mantiri's comments, the hairpins sometimes were too compressed, and I somehow got to the ending a little bewildered. What was your reaction to the ending of the novel, Jane?
Well, I guess for me, where the hairpin turns were not so much in the ending, it was before. It was the
Oh,
journey, in the journey. I won't
mm,
say anymore because
mm.
apparently I divulged something. So,
Oh,
but in the journey she needs to take, that's where it was like, oh, well, that was sudden. And
no. Mhm.
and you had to accept it because, and I think maybe now that I'm just thinking about it, perhaps the futuristic thing was necessary because how else was she to get there? So that's
By
and if
helicopter,
that
of
was
course.
how Shteyngart saw the story, then he had to make it happen. And I don't, I think that I've read a lot more contrived books. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, it is true. You needed a self-driving car if you're a 10-year-old child and is going
Uh-huh.
to take a quest at that. Probably it might have been no more complex than that. And I just go off into my philosophical meanderings. Well, this was fun, gals. Jane Fellows, would you give the book a thumbs up and recommend it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's yeah. I think that there are elements of the story that are great fun. It is well written. I mean, he's a fine writer,
Mhm.
and I will admit that a lot of times I read a book and I just go there. I figure that's my permission when I'm reading a book is to just go.
You will be
And
loved
and
by
if I can
every
and if I
author in
can
the world.
go, then it's okay. So
All right, all
yeah,
right. And
thumbs up.
Jane Mantiri, how about you? A thumbs up on this book?
I would give Gary a thumbs up as a writer. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is actually ordering several more of his books because I want to read more of his books.
Mhm.
Um, and I think one of the things that I enjoyed most about this book was his uh, brilliance in how he depicted the triangulation between the parents and the child.
Mhm.
That alone to me is worth reading about. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, and I would recommend the book also, despite my philosophical failings. Um, uh, it, as both James say, it took you on a journey. It was a child's view of life that I guess, I'm so old that I've gotten so childish myself that I completely identified with this little gal. So uh, I think for me, what I came away with is you live your life and there isn't really a lot of progress. So
Oh
anyway,
wow.
uh, 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 Jane Fellows, the title of your upcoming play so that we can look for it when you're on the boards performing it is,
The Measure of Lou Henry Hoover.
and it's Lou, Lou.
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah.
That was her name.
Yeah, all
Lou.
right.
She was yeah, Lou
Okay.
Hoover.
All right. Well, look for it because I'll tell you, everything else she does is gold. And Jane Mantiri, how about you? Title of your play. I must tell everyone a little joke before I close is when Jane talked to me about her uh, doing something biographical like this, and I said, "Oh dear, do not title it See Jane Run." Everybody titles their book See Jane Run. But I saw the play, understand the logic, and it is really a good play, people. So, Jane Mantiri, I've just said it 3 times, but give us the title of your book
See
or your
Jane
play.
Run, See Jane Run, an Indo story.
See Jane Run, an Indo story. And believe me, really, it is you, my audience, you've been privileged to talk to two very talented ladies and contributors to our society. I'm honored to be in their company. And I want to thank you both for joining with me today. And I don't know whether my audience or not cares about my philosophical quips, but I think we did the book a justice, and it got a good read and a good work over, and it got a thumbs up. So go out and buy that book too. And till next time, I thank my guests again,
Thank you, Caroline.
Jane, and Jane, and to my audience. Come back. We'll be here next time. Caroline Miller for Just Read It.